Our panelists are with the USAID. Barlin is the program coordinator with the Center for International Disaster Information at the U.S. Agency for International Development. We also have Margot Morris, who is also with the Center, USAID Center for International Disaster Information Outreach and Volunteer Coordinator. We have their bios in the program book, but I think it's really vital for us to have their perspectives on how, as diaspora communities, we can be of assistance to home countries and help to build capacity in these critical areas. Especially those of us from Africa, we always hear about the humanitarian crisis, and some of us feel helpless and not know what to do, especially from the United States of America. Well, I'm sure that you here today will leave with enough information about how to be helpful there, and the viewers on CAN TV will also have an opportunity to listen to two very passionate speakers on the issue of USAID's involvement in the areas of diaspora engagement. So let's start with Barlin Ali. Come on in. Let's give it up. Thank you. Thank you.
I think we have a presentation.
Where is Sandra again?
Well, while we wait, Sandra, thank you so much. I think it's afternoon. Good afternoon, beautiful people. I like it, Chicago. This is the first time that we travel a lot, but this is our first time. Even though I said there's a lot of traffic, a lot of people who visit Washington, D.C., they said, oh, Washington is worst. I guess we don't know how to drive here. That is the worst thing I got. And nobody said, these people, they are travelers, let's give them the way. So, well, thank you so much. I'm going to, as Ali Kaba introduced us, both of us, we work USAID Center for International Disaster Information. We travel a lot. We see a lot of embassy when we are in Washington, D.C. And when we travel, we see a lot of diaspora community and the American embassies, foreign embassies, consulates. So we can prepare them for when there is a disaster in their country. How can they help their country also? Because they are the one who know the country, the diaspora group, not the aid. You have to be, you are the one who know the language, the culture, the religion of your country. And that is where we get in to make the bridge between the diaspora and the relief aid. How can they work together? So I'm going to give the floor Margot. She's going to talk about the center, what we do and how we create it. And at the end, I will talk about how many NGO is here right now. And I will talk about NGOs, how can they be partnered with USAID, how can they get the grants and funds, and how to do those. Thank you so much. Margot, please.
So I'll give the brief history of how the Center for International Disaster Information was established and why. And also you'll see through the background of the type of engagement and education that we give to the American public why we work a lot with diaspora communities. Because like Barlin said, diaspora are the first to mobilize the community, the first to respond to relief efforts happening overseas. So in 1988, there was Hurricane Gilbert, which was a Category 5 storm, and it went through the Caribbean. And there was so much coverage and so much unsolicited material donations that were sent to the countries affected that it began to impede the emergency response, and workers were taken away from giving emergency medical response to having to deal with all of this stuff that was sent to the country. So the USAID created the center to help inform people about the most effective ways to donate or best contribute to emergency response, in hopes that for future disasters, the amount and the effect of unsolicited donations will be reduced. And every disaster is different, and it changes year to year, from country to country. And this is still like a constant issue that we as a center deal with, trying to educate people on why unsolicited material donations are discouraged and monetary donations are encouraged. Some of the ways that we do this are through speaking engagements like this, speaking to foreign embassies and talking to them about ways in which they can inform the community and be, an initial voice when a disaster strikes on how the community can best respond, how the community can fundraise, or, if what we see is that often when, events happen, people will bring to community members, they'll bring to communities unsolicited donations like clothing and canned food and bottled water, and they'll want it to be sent overseas in times of a disaster, not thinking about the amount of money that it costs to send something overseas, especially to a disaster zone, and just how that can actually get in the way of more priority supplies. So we also in our engagement work a lot with diaspora communities. And another thing that the center provides is a call center. We have a hotline that is up on the screen, 202-821-1999. And, oops, sorry, I'm gonna go back. Basically, we run this hotline 24/7, and we run this hotline 24/7 and provide information for anyone that has questions about the disaster response. If they have donation inquiries or like they want to volunteer, they'll call us. For example, for the Ebola crisis in West Africa, there was a number of people that were calling our office who had medical skills. They were nurses, they were doctors, and they wanted to learn how they could volunteer for the crisis. And so we engage, we provide them with education about what are the questions they need to ask themselves before they go over there. Do they understand the culture? Do they know the local language? Have they been in a disaster response before? Is there an organization that's ready to receive them? Number one thing we ask always is there an organization on the ground in the country you want to either donate to, or you want to volunteer time to, or even give money to, that is responding and wants your help or wants your goods? One of our number one questions we ask. So sometimes when a disaster is large scale and we become overwhelmed with calls and inquiries, we activate a call center. And that occurred, for example, during the Haiti earthquake, where we would have volunteers come in to help field the number of calls that we were getting about the disaster. So we give our messaging to prevent basically the images that you're seeing up on the screen, where this is seen disaster after disaster, where you have so many material goods that are being sent overseas into ports that it really does more harm in the end than good, and often takes away from the emergency relief response. Here are a few case studies that we like to bring up. This is a warehouse in San Francisco after Hurricane Mitch, where it's basically completely full of donations that were sent to the emergency response, but it didn't even get out of San Francisco. It stayed in the warehouse because A, they didn't know what's in all these boxes, and B, the amount of money that it's costs for organizations to send these goods over, it doesn't make sense. They can use that money locally, help boost local economies, rather than send these goods and flood the market with used clothing or canned food, which may not also be culturally appropriate. So these are just some photos of that warehouse. And this is someone, I don't know if you can see it very well, but there's someone that's like opening all the boxes and going through. So imagine how intensive it is of volunteers to be dealing with material donations. Here's another picture where they're going through sample medication, or like sample, from doctors and hospitals. They will send these boxes of medication, and some of the questions we ask are, what's the shelf life on this medication? Is it 6 months? If it's less than 6 months, it's not worth it because it probably won't make it over there in time for it to be effective. And then is it through correct dosage? Is it only in English so that people who perhaps don't understand English are knowing what they're ingesting and reading? It's really, really important questions that we ask. In Indonesia, after the tsunami, there was so much used clothing that was sent over there that the ships that had all of these pallets of used clothing didn't even go to the port where the main supplies were coming in. They just brought them to a shoreline and offloaded them on the shore where you can see people going through them. And there were so many that came through. In this picture, the clothing there is about a football size, a football field size space, where in order to make room for more used clothing that came into the country, they had to just burn it. So there's also environmental concerns too with just sending a bunch of stuff to a disaster-affected country. This is in Haiti. These are boxes of canned food and other foodstuffs that was basically just pushed off of the tarmac. It was offloaded. It just sits there because no one was there to receive it. No organizations were there to take it and then distribute it. There's often boxes of donated goods that were just sent to the people of Haiti that when they had animals getting into it and they had rodents getting into it, they had to essentially barb wire it off and put it in a corner so it became like a big trash heap. This is the embassy in DC. People were sending goods to the Haitian embassy, and as you can see, I don't know how they got into the front door. Looks a little difficult, but this is coming from goodwill. It's coming from people who want to help, and they want to help directly, and they feel like giving stuff is the best way. And we really just try and inform people through these cases and through the education that we provide about how sending material goods in most cases does more harm than good. Redirect their good intention. So for example, bottled water seems like a great donation to give to a disaster-affected area. But in fact, if you think about how many tons and tons of weight that you're shipping, all these crates of bottled water, how much money that costs, and then how much that money that was used to transport this bottled water could be used for, say, like filtration systems or procuring water locally. And also, the after effect is that you don't really have a recycling program in place in Port-au-Prince after they've been devastated by an earthquake, so people would throw it into the canal to take it out of the city. So it's, again, going back to these environmental issues. These are just a few examples of donations that people have inquired about sending. Just you think of the cultural inappropriateness, or just how, frostbite cream to Rwanda, it's not really frostbite pro-nation, but it's needing to inform people maybe who aren't aware of the location of some countries, or they know nothing about it. They just want to help, and we try and ask them more pointed questions about their donations. Here was after the BAM earthquake in Afghanistan. For example, sending pork to Islamic country is very culturally insensitive. And, these donations are coming from the American people, so we just have to, be careful about what we're sending overseas. Goldfish, Barbados. So people just want to give so much. And so lastly, because we are primarily just trying to educate people about why material donations aren't always the best idea. We have all of our resources on our website. We have a lot of free materials for individuals, organizations, for nonprofits at cidi.org. We also have a donations calculator that was made for us. So that example of the bottled water, it will calculate how much like a crate of bottled water would cost to send throughout the globe, and then takes that cost of transportation and says, well, you could actually provide clean water for this many more people if you were to just use it locally. And we also have fundraising ideas, repurposing ideas, especially when communities are trying to deal with goods that have already been donated to them. And I will, with that, pass it over to Barlin.
Thank you, Margot. I think it seems, I'd like to recap a little bit. The goldfish that you see, it's from a student who is in a school, and when he saw all that devastation and he just didn't have anything else, and he thought about the kids, and he said, I'm going to donate, and he called. So the call center, everybody calls. From the White House, from inside our organization, USAID, to State Department, from the embassies, from the diaspora who are suffering at that time, from the inmates, from the jail, people who wants to donate. So everybody would like, American people here, they are really, really generous. All that comes from a heart from generosity. It's not like, let's throw this, let's give this, it's not. So people, they need education, and that's why we travel, and we try to make sure that people, they really digest and get the idea of cash donation or monetary donation is the best. When money comes, it's always iffy. It comes a lot of, just like, my money, where is it going? But you can give your money who you believe philosophically, who you think which organization will do good. That organization, they can do that money, they know that relief organization, where to get it, when to get it, what people they need. They are the one who needs. So you have to trust and make sure that your $5, $2, $1 goes the right place instead of sending donations, sometimes in-kind donations. The in-kind donations itself is not bad if you organize and communicate and you know that they need specifically that medication, but not a medication that has shelf life only 2 months, and then by the time you put it into storage room, already expired. By the time you send it, already it's going to kill people. By the time you throw it and put it in the trash and rain comes, it goes under the water and you drink and then it kills. So think about it. So we're going to stop that with that. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, the website, it's a lot of educational. So I'm going to go and talk about NGOs, especially diaspora NGOs. I'm one of the diaspora people in here. So when we came in this country, a lot of people, they think back. I mean, my children, they might not be a diaspora because this is the country they know, and this is what they know. Every month I send money to my relative, not only mother or father or aunt and uncle. As a diaspora family, we have a family tie long. And it is just, it goes and goes and goes, and everybody counts on you when you're outside from the country. So I know my children, they might not send anything after I die. I mean, that money is gone for good. But what it is, usually that we always think about it when we come here, we say, okay, the village that I came, I would like to make a school. I would like to rebuild the hospital that they don't have anything. So what they do is they will create an NGO, which they are thinking that NGO will do, they will get money. It's not easy to do that. So you have to be very careful when you do your NGO that you have to be connected with this country, their NGOs, their other relief organizations, what they do. What did you do? How to move this? Just up and down? All right. All right. Well, anybody can tell that person? I think Margot, she didn't finish the last one. So in our office, we get a referral also. Anybody? No? Another person? John Kerry. Yeah. Yeah, that was Hayan, I think. Yeah. So grants and funds and awards from USAID. CIDI itself, the center, we are part of USAID, and then I don't know if you ever heard OFDA, Office of Foreign Disaster Assistance. So that is where we get in, that our division is only educational. We don't fund, but to talk about this, it was a lot of lateral that we have been going up, because we have been traveling, and Diaspora group, they have been asking all these questions that they are saying, well, when there's a disaster, we will never get any fund. Other relief organizations, they do get, especially the American Relief Organization here. And they just say again, we are the one who know the language and the culture, and we don't get anything. Well, those people, they are experienced. They've worked in that country, even though they don't speak. But then there's a way to partner with them. So I would like that if you have an NGO, or if you don't, that you are thinking about it. I'm going to talk about this, and you might later on, I know that there will be a lot of questions. On YouTube, we just launched a webinar that talks about only this, and then it goes one by one, and you can go back and forth and see how you can be partner with that, with USAID. So CIDI itself, we don't involve any of the selection of the grants or anything. This is just information that we are making easy for our constituents, the people that we talk. The BVO itself, it's a private volunteer organization. It's the same as NGO. In the United States here, we call BVO or NGO. They're the same, nothing different. Now, what do you need? If you have, you need your tax-exempt status. You must be a non-profit organization. To be, you have to have a tax-exempt. And that is that you have to apply, whichever state you are, in this state especially. And then provide funds. In order to be part of that, if you ever get a grant, or in order to get that, USAID, they would like to see some sustainability. You have to demonstrate ability that you to raise funds. Do you have a funds? Let's say you get grant, $5 million money. If that money ends, maybe 5 years, they said, okay, you're going to work with this $5 million for 5 years. The 5 years end. Are you going to shut the doors? So they want, you have to prove, some proof that you are going to sustain, that you have to say, okay, I have some funds, Exxon gives me this much. I have, you know, the Illinois state give me this much. That is how, and then I need this more. They want that you have to sustain. And then you need current programs also. What else that you have? You have to continue. Number one, you need a cover letter, how to apply. You need a cover letter. And then after that, proof of tax exemption, that already we talked about. And then you need your article incorporation, that it's like a little certificate that they will give you. This is how to apply to be partner with USAID. This is the documents that they're going to ask you. So if you are already an NGO, you have already the tax exempt, you have it. You have the, you can write the cover letter. It's only 1 paragraph or so. The article corporation you have already. If you are an NGO, already you have that. Your bylaws already, they are in hand. If you are NGO, already you have it. If you are not yet and you're thinking, you need that bylaws. Then you need the audit. That is where it comes. A lot of diaspora group, they don't like the audit. And I will tell you why. It's culturally. It's nothing that they're hiding. I've been involved with while I was here, I was involved to create a university where I come from. By the way, I'm from Somalia. So we created, with a group of professional professors who are, they said, help us, Barlin, create back home where there is stronger Al-Shabaab is. All the kids they are recruiting, so we would like to create a university. Students, when they graduate from high school, we make sure that they don't recruit these evil people. And I said, okay, it's a good cause. So we created the university. So students before who were going, you know, in the wrong hand, they come in, you know, in this university. Now the funds was, we fundraised it with friends and family and all this, and we fundraised about like 80,000. So somebody give us a building, we just did it, you know, whatever we can give, scholarships, wherever we can knock, we did it. What happened is the financial person, whenever he buys things, I was the treasurer, okay, Mr. Muhammad, send me the receipt. And he was like, what are you talking about? I said, I need a receipt. He said, we don't have a receipt, and that's it. And I said, I can't do this. I really need that receipt. I don't care where you get the receipt. So it's a culturally. So the audit, let me go back about the audit. We travel and we go all these different states and we talk diaspora group. Somebody raised hand and they said, well, do you know that doing the audit itself, it costs $2,000, $3,000? And I was like, well, who's going to trust you $5 million if you can't pay $3,000 for your audit? Right? So you have to make sure whatever you write, you know, audit, it's must. You have to show that audit. Your annual report, what you have done this year, you know, you did, like this summit this year, we did the summit, all these people come in, we give this and that, whatever you did, that the report has to be there. All this thing I'm talking is how you are going to register under USAID. Now, and that doesn't mean when you register, immediately you get, excuse me, funds or grants immediately. This, you're going to be exposure. You will see, they will know you. For example, let me say, Haiti, they get $20 million grant, and that money get Commonics, an organization call it a big, let me say, or A and B organization. Now, there is organization, NGO, who are registered under USAID, but they didn't get that grant. But they will know, they will get an email that it says, in Haiti, this group, they get this much money. Now you know, before you wouldn't know otherwise. Now you know, so you go after them, and you go with them, and you can just say, hey, we are an organization so-and-so, we are Haitians, we have 5 engineers already home, that they speak Creole, French, the native language, we know everything, we would like to partner. Would you? They will. Even if they give you 10,000 and they say go, so you build your credit, and people, they know you, and next time you will be the one. So you have to have a designated person. By the time you know your cover letter, you are sending, so one person who they are going to communicate. You start your application. There is something called sam.gov. It used to called, what was the other name? I forgot. DUNS number. That's what they used to call. It takes only 2 days, that number, to get it. Immediately you apply, you get it. The SAMS.gov, and then you start your application process, and then you complete it, submit it. At the end, either you get denial or you accept it. If you get denial, still you send an email, why did I get denial? They will tell you everything. That's it. It's so easy, really, to do it. But the diaspora organization, the diaspora people who are in this country who had NGOs, they are not aware of this. And I really would love you guys, if you don't have one, but you know somebody who get that, you have to tell them. You can call our number, 202-821-1999. We can answer all the questions that you like, and we will. There is a lot. By the time you registered, you'll get all these invitations for training, for online trainings, and a lot of the budget and grants talking about. Thank you so much. I don't know if you have questions, we can answer.
Yes, thank you. Do you have any questions, comments before we move on? Okay, I hope you got enough information. Next time, don't be helpless and be part of the USAID. It's a great resource for us. And I want to take this opportunity again to thank our panelists for being here. Let's give them a round of applause, please. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.